Okay, good to go.
Yeah, this one's already rolling. We're rolling here. And we'll just do a quick clap.
Awesome. All right, so tell me about yourself, just experience, family life, and your past positions in government.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to tell you and your audience a little bit about myself. My name is Ramiro Garza Jr., and I actually was born in Brownsville, Texas, but I've lived here in the Rio Grande Valley my entire life. I grew up very humble beginnings. My parents were very hardworking parents. My dad was a general laborer. My mother was a hotel housekeeper. I learned a lot from them. I have two siblings, a younger brother and younger sister, and they were all about hard work and doing the right thing all the time. So I grew up and learned a lot from them. I was fortunate to get educated myself beyond high school through their encouragement. My father passed away when I was 20, so being the oldest, I quickly had to obviously grow up and continue working, but at the same time going to school. So that taught me quite a bit from my upbringing, taking care of my mother, my siblings, and I was able to finish college and through their support and help while working at the same time. And I have a bachelor's in business administration degree, concentration in finance, and also have a master's degree in business administration as well. And I was very fortunate early on, right after I think it was my senior year in college, I was able to be part of an internship program at a bank. And so I learned a lot about small business and applying for loans and analyzing financial statements. So that was I think a really good foundation for me. But I quickly grew from there and worked at a program that it was, when Bill Clinton was president, it was called Federal Empowerment Zones, and the Valley was designated as one. And so I worked as a small business counselor, helping people that wanted to start their own business and also existing businesses that wanted to grow their business. So given that background that I had, I was an individual that would help them, attain financing and help them grow. And that's how I actually got into city government, because I was always trying to help the businesses look for help to grow their business. And that's what led me to then get into city government. I came to Edinburg in the year 2000. I was hired to be executive director of the Edinburg Economic Development Corporation. I was probably one of the youngest ones. I was 26 years old.
Wow.
And but I like to work hard and immerse myself in the community. At the time, it was a challenging time for Edinburg. We had a Hager clothing company was closing in that first year that I was there, and IEC Electronics, which was another big company. Together it was about 2,000 jobs. So we quickly had to come together as a community, and I was right in the middle of that, of working with elected officials and community members to how do we change our strategy and help grow our economy. So I was very fortunate to be a part of the Economic Development Corporation. I was able to be part of that growth that took place early 2000s and help bring a lot of different opportunities to our community. And I was there for a period of about 9 years, to 2009. And then in 2009, I became city manager. I was fortunate I was named interim and then I stayed as permanent. Had a great experience serving as city manager. There was about 800 employees at the time. I think there's a little bit more now. But running the day-to-day of the city was a true honor for me. Working with all the employees, the elected officials, just improving our community was a great highlight for me in my career in city government. And so in 2015, then that's when I decided to move on and go into the private sector. And so I've been in the private sector ever since.
And since you've been in the private sector, do you miss public service? Is that one of the reasons you have decided to run?
You know, I guess maybe it's one of those reasons, you know, city government's in my blood, right? I mean, it's my background. And, you know, just because I left the city in 2015, I mean, I continue living here. You know, my kids are in school here. We're, you know, I'm happily married to my wife, Maria. We've been married for over 16 years. And, you know, we've lived here in Edinburg all this time, and our kids go to school here. And, you know, like anybody else, we just want a better community, and I want to use my experience that I have to help the city. And so I think to answer your question, I guess you could say that in terms of, you know, it's about giving back to the community. To me, I tell people, you know, I've worked there at the EDC in the city all these years, so you know, we're really volunteering. This position that I'm running for mayor is a true volunteer position, and so to me, it's why not, right? It's about giving back. I mean, the city has been so good to me and my family. We love the city, and we want it to be the best it could be. And, you know, it's truly about giving back to me.
Yes, sir. And with the city doing so much for you and your family, and you just being such an integral part of it, I want to know, what issue do you feel right now is critical in Edinburg that is kind of detracting us from that all-American city we used to be?
Well, I mean, for me personally, how I looked at this in terms of deciding to run, you know, I just felt like, for me, I believe, the experience and the qualifications to really come in here and help the community and lead it into a new and prosperous direction. To me, it's all about planning for the future. You know, we're a community now of 100,000 people and growing. And, you know, with that growth comes responsibilities. And I just feel that we need to do a lot more to help our community. You know, we have so many assets here, right? The university, we're the county seat, of course, the medical school, and just the people. You know, I tell people the people of Edinburg are what makes Edinburg what it is. You know, I mean, over the years, you know, it's the Edinburg, you know, residents community that came together to start a junior college, right? You know, which was, you know, Pan American Junior College, Edinburg Junior College, and it was Pan American, to just have higher education available for our community. And it was the people that came together to formulate a Hager Clothing Company. When that building was built, it was the community members that came together to kind of make that happen. There was not an EDC, there was not anything set up back then to help recruit business. And then there was people that also came together for, you know, Ebony, you know, the golf course. Now the city owns it, but I remember when the city bought it, I mean, there was like hundreds of shareholders, family that owned a piece of that, because back then they all came together, you know, to kind of build that. And then lastly, the medical school, right? I mean, everybody came together to make sure that Edinburg maintained at least a piece of the first and second year, you know, of the medical school here in our community, because it's, I think, what's going to help transform our community for the future. So I think, you know, having said that, you know, we need to, I think, in my opinion, have leadership that has the experience, that can help work with, you know, all the assets that we have and just make our community better.
I do think the power is in the people here. They're resilient, and even though we kind of have a black eye right now from just the previous administration's actions or inactions, I do think it's the people that make this city what it is. And with that, I want to show you this document. They're trying to amend the city charter, and I believe they're trying to change it so that if a sitting official is convicted, they won't be automatically ousted. Even though I think they had recently just changed it so that was the rule. And I'm kind of wondering what your thoughts on that and why that would be taking place.
I'm not sure why that is taking place. I was made aware of that. I do know our city charter, what it calls for, which, by the way, I mean, if I am elected, the people do give me the opportunity, the gracious opportunity to serve as their mayor. I plan to follow our city charter, and make sure that we govern the city based on our charter. But to answer your question, I don't, if that is something that was going to be in the ballot to consider, I just think we need to let people decide, let the voters decide. And, if the voters want to make sure they amend the charter to reflect that, so be it, and we're going to follow that. I think that's important. But I think that if it's something that's was scheduled to be on the ballot, it should be on the ballot. Let the voters decide.
Okay. I guess I misunderstood. So it's going to be on the ballot. It's not the council deciding about this.
As I understand it, there was action taken last year to place that item on the ballot. And I believe tomorrow's agenda item has to do with removing it from the ballot. That's as I understand it.
Okay. And that decision to whether have it on or off comes down to the city council.
Tomorrow.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and my opinion is let the voters decide. I mean, at this point, it's something that was already scheduled to be on. Let the people decide, just like they're going to decide on who's going to represent them.
Exactly. It seems kind of unilateral to just take that off. But okay. And speaking of the city charter, I recently found something, and this was passed in the 60s, and it's section 35.
Okay.
And it talks about the police reserve force. And here's a couple of different sections of it. But basically, it's a 25-member force that is unofficially, there's no relationship to the city. It's unofficial. And the mayor can call them into active duty at any time, and there's no liability for this police force. And I'm wondering, is that a common practice among cities where they just have like the secret police force that is not tied to the city and it's unaccountable?
No, I believe, because this was passed, as you may imagine, I think at the time, I'm not sure what the size of our police force was. And, I believe this was put in there to get some additional assistance for public safety. Mm-hmm. But as I know or recall, even serving with the city, I don't remember this being active. I think, there is like a explorers program, like where you have young, up and coming adults that, want to know what it would take to be a police officer and things of that nature. But this, I don't believe, has been active that I know of. I may be mistaken that I don't remember this being in place. I know right now we have about at least over 150 officers that I know of. We probably should have more, in my opinion, but I think that's how many we have right now. This may be on there, but I don't believe it's something that is in place. Yeah.
We're segueing into police. Like you said, you believe that there should be more officers, and a lot of people are saying that officers should be given a raise. And I know they account for the biggest part of our budget, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's like the optics of it, especially what just happened with our chief of police and the whole fiasco there? Do you think it's a smart move to be investing more into the police? And I mean, it just seems like no one's steering the ship right now.
Right. No, understood. And look, my position, I've worked with and know a lot of the officers in our police department. A lot of those officers, they're risking their lives, when they leave their home, because they don't know what they're going to face out there in the community. Public safety is such a key service that a community provides, to I don't care what city it is. And I think here, in particular in Edinburgh, and there's a lot of politics nationwide and these, that, the other, but, I'm not at all about politicizing our city, to what's going on, whether it's across the state or our nation. This community, our officers risk their lives. They work hard. I know there's been some challenges in the department, as I may say, maybe other departments as well, around the country. But I say here locally, given, and I think that's where my experience comes in. Josh, when I was city manager, one of the things that I did is I negotiated with the union to make sure we had a fair compensation and a structure that the officers could work with. So I was always very fair and impartial with them in terms of, looking at things to where, okay, if we want to raise, where are we compared to our other cities, right, or other police officers? And I remember at one point, our officers, the pay was lower, right, than other areas. So we worked real hard over a period of years to bring them up to market, because we were losing some officers at the time. They were going to other law enforcement agencies. And so I obviously, it's been about since 2015 that I've left. I don't particularly know where they're at in the marketplace. I'm a person that looks at things with an open mind, but it's got to make sense too. It's got to be justified, right? And so I know that they have needs, and a lot of it, raises is one thing, equipment is the other. We got to make sure that they're equipped, right, to take care of our community. So it's, dollars, salary is one thing, but make no mistake, there's a whole lot of other needs that are in place in the force, from police units to other equipment, vests, things that are needed, right, for our growing police force. So again, going back to try to answer your question, I don't know if I answered it, so I apologize. I think that, we need to look to see what is needed in the department, just like all the other departments in the city. What do we need to help improve on our services, we provide to our residents.
Yes, sir. And I totally agree with you when you say that the equipment is a huge part of the equation, using the vests and vehicles and all these things. But where I want to offer some pushback is the misuse and the waste of that set equipment. And one of these examples is that video that I want you to play. Right now, there's a system going on where these police towers are being deployed and given to real estate developers or subdivision developers, and they sit in this subdivision, act as private security on the public dime. They were bought through a grant, but they're supposed to be used to aid Border Patrol with undocumented immigrant detection, surveillance, things like that, not private security for wealthy real estate developers. No, maybe I lost it.
Yeah.
Where is it? Oh, up there.
Oh.
Hi, my name is Josh, sir, and I'm a real estate developer, and we're doing a subdivision right now, and I was wondering how I can get one of those police towers out here to watch kind of the development and stuff.
I can move it there for a little while. I'll see if I have one available. They're not really meant for that, but I can see if I can move it over there.
Will it cost me anything, or?
No, it doesn't cost you anything. Just so you'll understand how it works, we bought them under a grant through what's called Stone Garden Grant, and that has to do with the Border Patrol and Customs, and that's what we use them for. But let me see, because I know sometimes we send them to problem areas and stuff, and then we justify it with you having gang activity, drug problem, or illegal trafficking. Let me see how I can move them over there to your site. Where exactly is the neighborhood?
Just wanted to get ahead of the game and kind of find out how I can get one of those.
I can move it there for a little while. Maybe you can call me back once you start your construction and all that stuff. And maybe they see a tower that deters some criminal activity, some thefts and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I'll put it back, and then I'll move it out. That's what we usually do.
Yeah, so I can just kind of justify by saying there's some like illegal activity here and stuff, and you'll be able to put it out here.
Yeah, it depends on the legal activity, but yeah, I'll figure out something.
Alrighty, and
Back at this number.
all right, what was your name again, sir?
Lieutenant Sepulveda.
Alrighty, you got it, Mr. Sepulveda. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
So that's kind of my concern, where it's really easy. I didn't even offer him anything, and he was ready to just give me one of these towers to be my private security. And I just don't think that's okay.
Well, no, I don't know what the city, are they following the policy? I don't even know, but I don't even know if we even owned one. I'll be honest with you, when I was with the city, I don't believe we did. And, you know, so, I mean, in my opinion, it should be used in areas where there's crime and there's activity. You know, I'm not there to tell you, oh, well, this is what's happening or not. What I can tell you is that they should be used, you know, for areas where there's criminal activity. Absolutely.
I totally agree with you.
And there should be some kind of paper trail or something filled out to where you got to fill out the information, what crime activity, what is going on to justify, you know, especially if it's a grant, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I just think there should be a more strict oversight.
Process in place. I mean, you know, just like I said, here, fill this out, what criminal activity, let's investigate it. I don't know, in my opinion, and then see if it's something that justifies it, right? So.
Okay, now let's talk about the budget. Do you plan to cut or bolster any segment of government?
Well, that's a very good, you know, loaded question, right? Because the budget, you know, I'm very, very familiar with it because, you know, having served as city manager, you know, I was the one tasked with working with all the departments and balancing it. Yeah. You know, getting all the needs from all the departments and working with elected officials and unfortunately there was always more needs than there was money, right, to do things. So you know, that was always a challenging time for us because, you know, you want to help and do all you can for the community, but you only had so many resources. Of course, nowadays, I started looking at some of the numbers of the city, and there's a lot more money to work with that the city has. I can tell you, the city's grown, and of course, our taxes have been raised, so the city has more money. I think there was some taxes that were raised 4.5 cents, I believe. Okay. You know, I think in 2018, or we started paying them in 2019. So, well, obviously, when we have increase in taxes, there's more money the city has to work with. But to answer your question, obviously, for me, if I were to come in, I would like to visit and with all the departments again to find out where are we at, what do we have, what is it that we can do to help improve services to our residents. And being fiscal responsible at the same time. You know, when I was city manager, we never increased our tax rate. In fact, I think when it was increased this last, 3 years ago or something, by this current administration, I don't think the taxes have been raised for over 25 years, the tax rate. So I remember, and the only reason I know that is because I remember when I became city manager, that was always you know, something that was back in my mind, like, first of all, the increase in taxes is like a no-go. That's not even something to consider because consistently, I believe it was since 1993. Of course, I became city manager in 2009. Our taxes have not been raised. They were 63.5 cents, the tax rate, since then. So I remember I'm not going to be the city manager that's going to come in here and increase the tax, or at least recommend. As city manager, I don't vote. I was just obviously the advisor to the city council, the mayor and the council at the time. Mm-hmm. But I obviously did not ever want to go to them with that. So, you know, the budget is something so important. It's probably one of the principal duties, I think, as elected officials, because you have to approve it once a year, right? And that's what sets the tone as to what the city's going to be spending money for the year. And so I'd like to see how the budget could be one that addresses some of our most basic needs, you know, our streets improvements, drainage. But before we even get there, Josh, you know, on my platform, one of my biggest things right now is having a 2040 vision plan for our city. What does that mean? All that means is, you know, I want to come together with residents and, of course, the city government structure and come up with what is our needs for the future, you know, from about 20 years from now. And so when we're looking at our budget once a year, we need to make sure that that budget reflects those goals and needs we're going to have 20 years down the road. Because in my opinion, by 2040, Edinburg's population will be larger than McAllen based on our growth rate. And, you know, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that growth. And so every year we need to be budgeting things that are going to help us meet the needs of the future. So, drainage, street improvements, widening streets, buying equipment that we need for the city. I've been talking to a lot of residents, a lot of neighborhoods recently, and some of the needs that they tell me they have are not these big ticket items. They just want a street repavement program, right? They want their streets repaved on a schedule of some sort. They want their trash picked up, not once but twice a week, like other cities. They said, well, why aren't we picking up our trash like twice a week, and why isn't our brush pickup being picked up more oftentimes than the time schedule now? And of course, being the city manager I tell them, well, there is ways to do that. You have to hire more staff and you have to buy more equipment, right? I mean, it's just, and obviously those are things that can be addressed along with all these other needs that we have. But I've always looked at the budget as it's a matter of priorities, and I know it's just a matter of figuring out a way, how do we maximize, with the funds that we have, meeting the needs of the community in the best way we can.
Definitely. And in that 2040 plan, I understand the economic aspect is super important with the growth that we're expected to experience. But I want to know, are you taking any environmental impact into that plan as far as like climate change and things like that?
Oh, I mean, when I say 24, this is the entire community. So it's everything from, infrastructure, to, of course, drainage is included in that, economic development, public safety, the environment. That is important, I believe the city, we had a designation of a Cool Cities campaign, which meant that you were just an environmentally friendly city, and you worked to ensure that, you met it was some requirements of that designation, but absolutely. And I think but the beauty of that, Josh, is that 2040 vision is not my vision. I mean, that 2040 vision will be a community's vision. I mean, I have certain ideas of what I feel like we should have in place, but the beauty of that is it's a people-driven vision, right? I mean, and so if you come and say, hey, this is important to me, this is how we should do it, you do benchmarks. I mean, believe me, there's no city that just does what they do on their own. Whatever idea anybody has, there's some city that's already doing it, and so there's no sense to reinvent the wheel. What are they doing? Are they doing it okay? I mean, maybe we can improve on it. So I think that's one way to address it, because it's a visioning process that encompasses the needs of the entire community.
Yeah, and I guess it's going to be fluid.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That brings me to my next topic, which is something that I really like about you, and you're doing it different, and that's campaign finance. And I want to know, what are you doing different compared to your two other opponents?
Well, I look, to me, it's about transparency and accountability. And I know those words are said a lot, and but to me, it's part of the reason why I'm running. I think, everybody wants, good government, clean government, and how you do that is by being open and transparent, right, with what you do. And so I just felt like, in running for this, we're now a city of 100,000 people, and what a lot of people don't realize is what that means, and of course not officially, so the census is when it makes it official. I think the projections show we're at 100,000, but once it's official by census that we're at the 100,000 threshold, there's a new level of requirements of the city that comes in particular elected officials. There's personal financial disclosures that you have to file that before we did not, right? There's different things that, I remember when we surpassed the 50,000 mark of the city, because when I first came, we were about 48,000, I believe, but we surpassed the 50,000 mark. And I remember celebrating that because I was an economic development director, and I felt like, oh, that's going to help us bring new business and help our existing businesses grow. But then I was quickly reminded that, well, with that 50,000, guess what? The city has to pay for all the costs of the electricity along the highway, all that light that you see there, and any repairs to our traffic signals, guess what? That's on the city, wow. Right? 100%. So, I mean, that's fine. That's all part of, but my point is that, we need to, we need to plan for that. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so going back to your question, As far as campaign finance, I wanted to make sure that, I really feel that as a city, as far as elected officials, if you're a vendor, if you're doing business with the city, you're providing a service to the city, you should not have to feel compelled to donate to a campaign, particularly to mine, and feel like you have to donate, and so that you can be considered, right? I'm not saying anything or there's anything out of the ordinary going on. All I'm saying is the reason I pledge not to accept contributions, from vendors or people that provide a service to the city, that have a contract with the city to provide a service, is so that if I get the opportunity to go in there, I want to establish some kind of code of ethics, among us as elected officials. And, does that mean that maybe vendors won't be able to contribute in the future? I'll be, as mayor, I'll be one vote. There's 4 council members and me. And if everybody feels like, well, yes, but we should have thresholds. Other cities have thresholds. And one of the things about running for office is obviously is campaigning. You raise funds. It's very expensive to run. So I get that. But we're only get elected once every 4 years. I don't believe that, once you get elected, that you should be campaigning and raising funds, throughout your whole 4-year term. In my opinion, I think there should be a schedule of, I don't know, 12 months maybe before, or 6 months where you can raise funds. Those are just, it's just me. I mean, I'm open-minded to talk with the rest of the council, right? And figuring out something in the spirit of transparency and accountability. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to be clear, so my audience understands, you don't need to do this. You don't need to, right? But you're doing it because it's an ethical thing.
Correct.
To do.
It's just who I am. I mean, as an individual, I grew up, obviously very humble beginnings, and I grew up always doing the right thing. I mean, I don't know how else to be, and I just feel that. So you're right. No, I do not. But to me, I just think it's a way to have a structure in place at the city, so that future generations, when they run or want to get involved with the city, I just feel I'd like to make it easier for just regular people that want to run for office. I mean, and I say regular people, what I mean? And people that are not political nature, that just want to serve the community.
Has it been a detriment to you as
No.
far as
No, sir.
Yeah.
No, it has not, because I think I've worked with so many people over the years, and they know who I am, what I'm about. I think when I started telling people that I couldn't take contributions if they were vendors, I think some people were a little surprised, but at the same time they were not, because they know who I am. They know what I'm about, and they know that, I didn't have this grandiose plan of, I want to be mayor one day. I really did not. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but it's the truth. I mean, I just feel like I have the experience. I feel like, we should have someone that, has that background to, best represent the city's best interests.
COVID-19. How do you plan to tackle this?
Well, look, it's a very serious matter. I mean, you're right. We thought we were coming out of it, and here we are. Numbers are going up again. For me, look, we have these hospitals here in our community, right? I mean, UHS, Edinburg Regional. We have Doctors Hospital Renaissance. We have other clinics here in our community. We need to work with the healthcare community as a city, and we need to increase vaccinations, in our community. We need to figure out a way to do that as a city, as a partner, the school district, the county. Again, we have so many entities here. So I think that's one. We need to increase vaccination efforts. The city needs to serve as a resource clearinghouse for residents as to what is available, where can I do this, what, because as a city, I mean, yes, we have the certain services we provide, street, drainage, trash pickup, and those things, but as when something goes wrong, your power goes out or anything, some people don't know, they're going to call the city. I mean, they just don't know. We just live here, and but I think we should, like I said, my second point is establish some kind of a resource clearinghouse. One of my ideas that I have that maybe goes along with the COVID, is having a resource center, community resource center for business and residents. I've been talking to a lot of nonprofits also, and they serve as a community. Whereas a food bank, or I just went to an event. That's one of the things that I like about now running, is that I get to meet and learn more about our community that I thought I knew about. But I just visited with a nonprofit that they take care of the elderly, and the elderly abuse is a big issue in the region, anywhere. But they don't know, where can we provide those services? And so I told them, I said, well, one of my ideas is to have a community facility where it'll be available for the city to streamline the services we provide. So for example, on the business side, if you want to develop or do something in the city or start a business, we'll bring somebody from the university, because guess what? The university has a small business center, and they help people with business. And so it's a one-stop place where you can go for this, right? But the other part to that will be a community resource center. What is that? Well, it could be, as far as COVID, being an area that could, serve as a clearinghouse of information. A lot of people just don't know. They're feeling sick. Well, where can I get tested? I think that we need to do more of that, in my opinion. And then the third point I'll say, Josh, is that, our area still is an area known as it's just we have still a high poverty rate. So this pandemic, is very detrimental, obviously, across the country, but for us, even more so, because guess what? I think it's over 30% of our residents are in poverty, and they're uninsured. And so we need to, see how it is that we can collaborate, because as a city, obviously we can't help directly, but I certainly think that we can take the lead and, collaborate with entities that could help, provide that help that they need. Mental health is another big issue, and again, I think serving as a facilitator of the city, because at the end, residents are our residents. We need to take care of our residents, and it's not. Obviously, public safety is one, and just taking care of our streets and all that. But just overall, we need to protect our residents. And when there's a hurricane that comes and it's declared a disaster, everybody. Well, guess what? The city's right in the middle of that, right? We're taking care of our residents, making sure. To me, this pandemic's almost the same thing. So we need to figure out how is it that we can help? And I think it starts with increasing our vaccination efforts. I think it starts with working with our healthcare community partners, and have this resource clearinghouse, that could really help address, the needs of our community.
What's your opinion about the county's response? I feel like they've dropped the ball quite a lot as far as testing at the beginning, and I'm wondering, do you think it's kind of more of Edinburgh's responsibility to take care of Edinburgh residents, or should we be waiting on mandates from Judge Cortez and things like that?
No, I think as a city, we need to collaborate with partners like the county and others to see, because the city of Edinburgh residents are the county residents too, right? And so we need to partner with them and anybody we can to help address whether it's testing or vaccinations. I think we need to do our part. And I think there's been funding that has been sent down to address that, right? So we need to figure out how do we use that to, help our residents. And this has been an evolving issue. I know that obviously it's been something very new, not only for the county, the city, and everybody, but I think it's been here now for a while. It's been here over a year, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we need to do more to educate our residents, to take care of our residents, and at the same time plan for the future, together. It's just, this thing's not going away anytime soon. I think it's something that we need to make sure we are ready for.
I know our poverty rate is one of the highest in the nation. Our education rate is one of the lowest.
Unemployment rate.
Is one of the highest as well. And on your platform, you talk about affordable housing. And I'm wondering what kind of partnerships do you plan to form, or how do you plan to crystallize that and make it happen?
Well, on affordable housing, the reason I pointed it out is because there is a lot of housing that's taking place in our community, but the prices have been going up. It's getting to a point where when you look at the income levels, right, of our residents versus, what some of the costs are, right, to build a home or to buy any home, it certainly has gone up. And so how do we bridge that gap, right? What do we do? And so I think there's a number of ways. Cities have done a lot of different things. I mean, I think there's areas in the community that, you know, if it's a partnership, I think that we can have, right, with those that are developing, so that they can make it affordable for people, you know, to be able to move in and you know, either build a home or buy an existing home. You know, there is programs federal level, the state level, that if the city were to apply to, you know, could draw some of those funds to this community. You know, in Edinburg in particular, we don't have an affordable housing corporation per se. There's one in McAllen, which does business throughout the whole region. And there's others throughout the area. We need to bring them here, you know, and see, you know, what do you need so that we can have areas here in Edinburg that has affordable housing, you know, and make that available. So I think it's about partnerships. It's about finding programs available for residents. I'm a little bit familiar with that. When you know, unfortunately, when my father passed away, I actually helped my mother build a house. Wow. And I remember when I had just graduated college, that finance degree came in handy, because I remember I helped her through that process and to get a loan. And I remember I looked through all programs that were available to help, because my mother was a widow, right? And we were able to find, luckily through my research, you know, a couple of programs that help with a down payment assistance, you know, and closing costs, for example. And to people that, you know, obviously, again, are struggling, trying to find a way, how do we make that leap to buy a home? Let me tell you that down payment assistance and closing costs are almost everything to make that work. And so that's what I have in my mind, Josh. You know, even if it's, you know, drawing down, I don't know, federal program or something that could do the same thing that did, let's say, for my mother at the time, and make that available. It's available, but, and some may say, well, it's not the city's responsibility. Well, in my opinion, you know what? I think if it's a way to keep residents here, bring new residents, and take care of folks that wouldn't otherwise be able to, why not? You know, I mean, we need to help where we can. That's just how I've always seen things. And I think as a city, you know, obviously we have our core services we provide, but I think we have responsibility, you know, to help our residents in any way that we can.
Really just like exhaust every avenue and whatever you can do, even if it's not your responsibility.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, that's about all the questions I have for this first one.
Great. All right.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate it.
Not a problem.
So I still want to do that debate if you're still interested, but
Oh, absolutely.